In this episode of the Oracle Scroll, we're going to take the Journey of the Fool. This will wrap up our look at the cards in the Major Arcana and all the assistance that they are here to offer us. After that, we are going to look at compassion in our world. It's a subject we've talked about before, but it compels us lately to talk about it much more. So I'm going to bring it back. So welcome to episode 27 of the Oracle Scroll. Welcome to the Oracle Scroll. My name is Kevin Walder, and I am your host, and I invite you to join my guests and myself as we discuss all things metaphysical. So we've spent the last several episodes, well, in fact, the first 25 or so episodes, talking about the cards of the Major Arcana and how they present to us, well, they actually mirror back to us the things that we either are displaying or things that we need to display. And they are there to help us in our spiritual growth. So at the end of this entire journey, we get to go back and look at the journey of the fool and listen to his perspective as he has completed each of the tasks that was set before him. So let's jump right into the journey of the fool. The very first card in the deck is the Fool, which is numbered 0. And this makes him sort of a wild card in the group. The 21 remaining cards in the Major Arcana can be divided into 3 groups of 7 representing the various mysteries the Fool must encounter on his journey through life. The first group of 7 pertain to the physical growth. The second group of 7 pertain to the emotional growth. And the final group of 7 pertain to spiritual growth of the individual. We will begin with the first group of 7 cards and their importance in the development of the fully aware adult the Fool will eventually become. So we're talking now about the physical mysteries. At birth, the Fool is endowed with his or her own magic and magical power. Card number 1, the Magician, represents that magical state. The Magician is the forceful, assertive, masculine expression of magical spirit. No matter what befalls the Fool in the future, he or she will always have that magical power to sustain him or her through anything. At birth, the Fool is also endowed with a balancing feminine spiritual influence in the form of the number 2 High Priestess card. The High Priestess balances that forceful masculine spirituality of the Magician with an equal portion of intuition and quiet determination. The Fool can always take comfort in the balance of spiritual power present within him or her throughout his or her life, I should say. The first person with whom the Fool forms a bond is number 3, the Empress. The Empress is the ultimate expression of motherhood. She is quietly powerful and intuitive, with a determined but nurturing attitude toward all life around her. She is the one person the Fool can confide in as he or she tackles the earliest lessons of life. And, once again forming a balance with that feminine power of the Empress, is card number 4, the Emperor. The Emperor is the strong, masculine director of his world, who enjoys the position of making the rules and enforcing them. The Fool soon learns that the Emperor is a fatherly figure, who will always be there to protect him or her, but he demands a level of respect which may take the Fool some time to fully appreciate. As our Fool grows, it is soon time for him or her to leave the comfort and safety of home and to learn the ways of the society around him or her. Number 5, the Hierophant, steps forward as the first teacher outside of the home. The Hierophant speaks of tradition and authority, demanding a new level of respect from our young fool. And as our young fool continues his training and education, he is soon faced with new and unfamiliar feelings as he encounters number 6, the Lovers. The Lovers speak to us of choices and commitments, perhaps even a first love. The fool has never had to make these choices before and finds the prospect unfamiliar, somewhat intimidating. But he or she has been trained well and soon identifies the correct course to take. The final card in the physical journey of the fool is number 7, the Chariot. Our young fool has experienced so much in his short life that he is now ready to release some energy. The Chariot speaks of power, speed, precision, and as the fool becomes aware of his physical strength and prowess, he or she feels the need to express this through competitive activities. The fool is now a young man or a young woman ready to learn more about their own individuality. Next, we will examine the second group of 7 Major Arcana cards, which deal with the emotional growth of our fool. So the emotional mysteries. It is time for our fool to discover the need for emotional and mental power to complement his physical abilities. Though the fool has faced many challenges and tests throughout his or her journey, with card number 8, Strength, he is presented a challenge of strength which calls on his or her emotional, mental, and spiritual prowess rather than anything physical. Suddenly, he or she is no longer on sure footing as the fool seeks to find that inner strength which will see him or her through all future challenges. Over the course of this journey, there have been many times the fool has had to ask why. Card number 9, the Hermit, steps forward to remind our fool that the real answers to all of life's questions lie within, and the time has come to withdraw from society and engage in a period of introspection and self-discovery. As the fool emerges from his solitude, self-imposed solitude, he feels more connected to everyone and everything in his surrounding world. Card number 10, the Wheel, tells the fool to respect and embrace the cyclical changes of seasons and rhythms of life, understanding that there will always be highs and lows, and being emotionally ready to work within the natural flow of things will be much more rewarding than fighting the natural order. Looking back on the journey so far, the fool realizes that there have been times in the past when some of his decisions were not well thought out and for the good of all. Card number 11, Justice, is the reminder that in order for there to be fairness and justice in this life, everyone must be treated fairly and equitably. Justice is blind and does not take into account status or wealth, but decides with fairness for all. The fool is more determined than ever now to complete the journey to self-knowledge and understanding. Card number 12, the Hanged Man, comes forward to admonish the fool to quit focusing only on the costs of the journey, but to pay closer attention to the benefits being derived from it. A new perspective is needed. A new way of seeing and experiencing the journey will lead to greater emotional growth. Upon reflection, the fool realizes that many old habits and attitudes need to be eliminated to make growth possible. Card number 13, Death, says to our fool that nothing is permanent in this life, and there are times when new growth cannot occur without discarding something old, which is just taking up space. Some highly regarded bits of life must be sacrificed to allow the new. Something the fool had not expected was how soon balance could be restored after letting go of old attitudes and habits. Card number 14, Temperance, presents one of the biggest lessons the fool will learn on this journey. The lesson of alchemy that the fool can create for himself by combining unrelated elements to make a more precious and useful tool for him or herself. Just as in our own lives, the fool's journey has had many ups and downs, but each down has provided him or her with a new tool for coping with the future, and each up teaches him or her to respect the lessons of the past. The next 7 cards of the Major Arcana deal with the spiritual development of our fool. The spiritual mysteries. Our fool has just completed the emotional part of his journey, getting better acquainted with himself as an individual with a mind and a conscience. We can relate his journey to our own lives and the many challenges and rewards which have made us into the people we are today. There is an important challenge ahead for our fool, however, and that is the spiritual portion of his journey. Card number 15, the Devil, steps forward to challenge our young fool, asserting that there is something which has been a jealously guarded belief system which is standing in the way of our fool's further progress. Only by closely examining his or her beliefs and ways of thinking and making a decision to release that which is standing in the way of his or her growth can our fool move on to his or her next reward or challenge. Having met the challenge of the Devil, our fool progresses to number 16, the Tower. The Tower represents cataclysmic change in nearly every part of life. Perhaps because of the changes made in his way of thinking, our fool finds his world turned upside down, and he is facing massive changes. This change is cataclysmic in its size and scope, but it is not catastrophic, indicating there are many benefits that are in line for our fool. One of the helpers our fool can call on during this time of challenge is card number 17, the Star. The Star is full of hope and promise. No matter what the issue or how dark the storm cloud, the Star is there high above to guide our fool to his highest reward. As this spiritual journey continues, our fool will, no doubt, recall the promise of the Star and draw a great deal of strength from it. Next to the Star comes card number 18, the Moon. The light cast by the moon, being more dreamy, produces shadows in places our fool may never have seen them before, allowing him or her to see in ways that he or she may never have considered previously. Once his or her eyes adjust to the light, the moon shows our fool the way to look into the darkest shadows for the answers they seek. After the challenges of the first 2 cards of this group and the introspection of the second 2 cards, our fool emerges into the bold, bright light of card number 19, the Sun. The Sun is our life-giving warmth and energy which keeps our earth alive. We can feel the joy our Fool must be feeling to have emerged into this life-giving energy of growth and beginning, which is the sun. There is one last remaining challenge for our Fool, and that is addressed by card number 20, Judgment. Judgment calls on our Fool to make use of all the wisdom that has been collected since he or she first stepped off that cliff in the original depiction, to remember the wisdom with which he or she was born and the magician he is, to recall the emotional challenges that have already been faced with the hanged man, and to appreciate spiritual development in the tower. It is time for our Fool to be reborn, to take on the full personhood that he or she has earned by meeting the challenges and accepting the rewards of this journey. The Fool's journey reaches its final destination at card number 21, the World. The World is a card full of joy and accomplishment, and is an appropriate end to our Fool's journey. He has earned a place of respect and admiration. He or she has overcome adversity and met many challenges in gaining the world, all for himself or herself. There is great wisdom here, and the Fool is now ready to make use of all of it. In the second segment of the Oracle Scroll, we take something of current interest and apply a spiritual solution. We take a look at something I was interested in talking about, which involved victim shaming. And we currently, at the time of recording this in mid-September of 2018, we're seeing a tremendous uptick in victim shaming. It makes everyone uncomfortable. And I was going to write something about it, and then I realized I kind of covered a lot of what I wanted to say in a previous work called Compassion in Our World. As we look around at the brutal way we humans treat each other, from the grocery store to the freeway to our social media platforms, people are less inclined to show compassion and almost eager to discredit, disrespect, and even destroy those who happen to be in any way different. When it is more important to report an individual for being the wrong color for this neighborhood or having an abundance of rainbows in their front yard than it is to entertain the possibility that no crime has been committed, we have innocent people being gunned down in the streets for absolutely no reason. How might these same volatile situations have turned out differently if the reporting party had simply not sought to be the enforcer of their view and their agenda? What if instead of suspicion and distrust, the two parties could have acknowledged each other's right to exist, leading them to seek understanding rather than confrontation? Our newscasts are full of disturbing images of violence against a fellow human being, and yet we still see examples of the Good Samaritan who helps repair a flat tire or jumps into a flooded ditch to save the driver who lost control. Compassion is one of my concerns for which I am passionate. Am I perfect and completely without fault when it comes to showing compassion to my fellow man? Well, no, not at all. That realization helps remind me of my job. It's why I'm here on this earth. I strive to be understanding with everyone, though there are times that my imperfection is on full display, and I think we all find ourselves there sometimes. We can each recall a time when we failed to be supportive and compassionate, especially with family members. In the LGBTQ community, where suicide is rampant, especially among the youth, the question has to be, what would happen if patience and understanding were extended in place of judgment and dogma? When I was much younger and had begun questioning everything about the church I was raised to believe was the only way to salvation, I was faced with the punishment meted out for such offenses. This group employs shunning to extort obedience from the faithful and the not so faithful. As I was being expelled from the cult, I stood to lose every, quote, friend, end quote, I had ever made, along with my entire family. The rules here are that if any of these people so much as spoke to me, they would be expelled and shunned as well. Fear. It's a big tool. As a young man already dealing with a broken marriage, this was a daunting realization. In a recent Lenormand reading, the cards spoke of a couple who were quite influential in my past, and it was at that moment, some 38 years after the event, that I fully realized the risk these two friends had taken on my behalf. These wonderful people not only continued to see me socially, but they also employed me at times, even though at any moment they could have suffered the same indignity of expulsion, the same as I. I had not fully appreciated this level of loyalty until that very moment in the reading, and it helped me tremendously in rebuilding my life. Some years ago, my husband and I were approached by a friend of long standing who told us that a series of kind gestures we had extended to her and her family had helped them through an extended rough patch and kept them optimistic as to a better outcome. Neither of us knew quite what to say because we had not gone out of our way especially, and we certainly were not fully aware of how we were helping. I'm sure the friends who helped me did not fully appreciate what a difference their actions and loyalty were making in my life. Sometimes it isn't elaborate plans or extravagant gifts. It's as simple as a kind word or a listening ear. We may not have the resources to solve world hunger, but we could contribute to a local food bank or offering personal assistance when we see a need in our local community. I have a meme that I share occasionally on social media which simply says, "We may never know when we are someone's only light." That light could be your smile of encouragement. It could be your comforting hand when consoling a friend. It could be your talent for preparing food for a sick friend or your assistance with a financial emergency. More currently, we have received an outpouring of generosity of all kinds from our community, to the point that we will never be able to repay that debt. So, how do we make ourselves fully available to the community? How can we begin now to show the loving compassion we long to see from our community? I have found that when I direct my attention to the needs of others, my own needs are automatically taken care of. I still have to recognize my limitations and that I cannot repair society as a whole, but I can make a difference. Right here, on my block, my street, my town. I ask that you help us all with your own ideas for showing compassion, and ask that you share those thoughts with us for future discussion. In the third and final segment of the Oracle Scroll, we take a question from an audience member and draw cards to see if we can offer some guidance. And today's question comes from Penny. And Penny's question is rather simple. She says, I'm just feeling overwhelmed by life lately. Do you see where this is leading and how long before things get back to normal? Well, Penny, thank you for your question. I can speak for all of us in the human race, we've all been there, so take heart. You're just having a human experience. But I drew 3 cards for you, nonetheless, and they are the Fool, the Knight of Cups, and the 9 of Wands. So, basically, you just told me that you were overwhelmed and really didn't give me a whole lot to go on, so I'm assuming that this is going to actually influence the spread the most. The Fool leads off with advice on staying in the present and not allowing concerns for the future or regrets from the past to interfere with the purity of this very moment. This card speaks of taking a leap of faith. It is often not possible to see the end result, and life offers us no guarantees. So, this leap of faith can only happen in the moment. Overthinking will only keep us stuck where we are and will continue to feel out of control. The Knight of Cups steps forward to advise on an emotional attachment. Emotions, they can relate to so many different parts of life, relationships, or any kind of passionate pursuit. So I always have to step back and kind of decide which is it. And with the cards that surround this one, I am led to believe that this has to do with your work, your artistic endeavors. The warrior energy of the knight is advising action, since it's the only way to satisfy your curiosity and need to create. With both these initial cards, I also get a feeling that you may need to set some boundaries that allow you to continue your growth. This card has a very masculine energy, indicating there may not always be a nice, sugary way to secure the cooperation you need from those around you, if you get my drift. The 9 of Wands. It comes up to round out your reading with an acknowledgement of your past sacrifices to accomplish your goals. I always look at the artwork on this card as indicating that there are probably a few scars, some bruises, but you're still standing. Your passion still burns brightly. The 9s are achievement cards, and this one involves your greatest passions, your greatest motivations, and says to me that you're going to find you are much further ahead than you think you are. So one thing for you to remember is that you have not made mistakes. You've just created lots of learning experiences. And that's where growth happens. So Penny, thank you very much for your question, and I hope that what we've drawn for you here is helpful in some way. If you, as an audience member, would like to participate in our little mini readings, please send your question to theoraclescroll@gmail.com. Thank you for joining us for episode 27 of The Oracle Scroll. The Oracle Scroll is now available on many of your favorite platforms, and we ask that you please subscribe today. Find us on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, and occasionally on Facebook, whenever it cooperates. You can become a part of the work that we do here at Oracle Scroll and earn attractive bonuses for yourself at the same time. So, to do that, visit our Patreon page, which is Patreon, patreon.com/Kevin Walder, and that will tell you exactly how you can participate in the way that is easiest for you. And a link to that page will also be available in the episode notes that accompany this audio presentation. Any kind of questions, requests, suggestions, anything at all, please forward those to theoraclescroll@gmail.com. And be sure to share your experience with your friends, your relatives, and anyone else who might enjoy what we do here at the Oracle Scroll. And again, links to all contact options are listed in the episode notes accompanying this audio presentation. Thanks again for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you for our next episode. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Oracle Scroll. Find us on Facebook at the Oracle Scroll. If you wish to send comments, suggestions, or requests, please address them to theoraclescroll@gmail.com.